Okay, so Bitcoin, everybody, it's been, well, a year. Amorite. Up, down, and now. Kind of just vibing.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And that vibing, that's what's got everyone talking.
It's not how Bitcoin usually rolls.
Exactly. This whole sideways bull market thing throws you for a loop.
We've got, let me grab my notes. Ah, yes. Plan B's take on this to unpack today.
PlanB's always got those deep dives into the data. It's interesting stuff.
Right, like not financial advice or anything, but if you want to understand what makes Bitcoin tick.
They're the one to follow, for sure. And even they're like, this is weird, even for Bitcoin.
Okay, so for anyone listening who hasn't been glued to the chart since 2011, remind us, what's a normal Bitcoin bull market supposed to look like?
Think back to like 2013, 2017, even 2021 to some extent. Sharp upward climbs, tons of action, the whole shebang. It's like someone hit the pause button.
But it's still technically a bull market. That's what's throwing me off.
Yep, it's still technically an upward trend, just really, really slowly.
So like a really relaxed bull, just chilling on a beach somewhere.
Pretty much, it's like the anticipation is building, but the release hasn't happened. Like that moment right before the roller coaster takes off.
Makes sense. It's still going up, but it's like it's going up in slow motion.
Exactly. And it has people wondering, what's really going on here?
Yeah, someone messing with the market, keeping the price down on purpose.
Plan B actually addresses that. Their take is that manipulating a market for a short burst, sure, may be possible, but to keep this holding pattern for months, much less likely.
Okay, so then what's the real reason behind this Bitcoin chills session?
Well, it's kind of tied into this whole cycle Bitcoin goes through, right? Like clockwork, almost. Remember the halving?
Oh yeah, the halving. Happens every 4 years, cuts the rate of new Bitcoin in half. It's like a built-in scarcity thing.
And usually in the months leading up to the halving, the price gradually increases, like a countdown timer, building anticipation.
But not this time, huh?
Nope. This time, things got a little front-loaded. Remember back in early 2024 when Bitcoin was around $20,000?
Vaguely, yeah.
Well, in the months before the halving in April, the price just went nuts. Surged past $70,000.
Wait, seriously? Like way before the halving even happened?
Exactly. It's like the market was so hyped up it threw the party early, and now we're dealing with the after effects.
The after party's always a little more low-key.
Yeah.
So are we saying this whole sideways thing is like a Bitcoin hangover?
That's actually a really good analogy. All the excitement, all the anticipation, it got priced in ahead of time.
And now we're in the recovery phase.
Exactly. Except we don't know how long this recovery phase will last.
Right. So is there any historical precedent for this? Has anything like this happened before?
It has. Bitcoin did see some flat periods after the halvings in 2016 and 2020. But
see, it's always a but.
there is. This time, the length of this flat period is what's really got people talking. It's been way longer than usual.
Okay, so longer downtime, bigger question marks.
Right.
This is getting interesting. But we're so focused on what's happening inside the Bitcoin world. Anything going on outside that could be playing into this?
Oh, absolutely. And there's one big one coming up that even Bitcoin can't ignore. The U.S. election.
Oh, yeah, that little thing. Like anyone can think about anything else with that hanging over our heads.
And for big investors especially, the election outcome could mean big changes for crypto regulation. A Biden-Harris win is seen as potentially not so great for crypto.
So what are they doing? Holding their breath until November.
Pretty much. And that hesitation at the top, it trickles down, impacts all of us. Uncertainty makes people cautious. And in the financial world, cautious often means sitting tight.
Which brings us right back to our sideways Bitcoin, right? It's not just about the tech, it's about the whole world right now. I swear, these deep dives, it's like we start with Bitcoin, but we end up talking about everything else too.
Well, everything is connected. And we're not done yet. Because there's one more piece of the puzzle Plan B talks about that might actually be a good sign, even with this sideways action.
Okay, you can't just drop a teaser like that and not tell me more. What's the good news?
It's all about something called realized price.
Okay, that doesn't sound exciting, but you're about to blow my mind right here.
Absolutely. So imagine, like, averaging out the price everyone paid for their Bitcoin.
Across, like, the entire history of Bitcoin. That's a lot of data crunching.
Right. But that's basically what this is. It's like the average cost basis for every holder, not just what's happening today.
Okay, so instead of the daily drama, it's more like the big picture of what people actually spent on their Bitcoin.
Exactly, and that gives us a sense of the underlying sentiment. Plan B points to 3 levels of this realized price that are super interesting.
Hit me with them, I'm ready.
First up, $32,000. That's the average across Bitcoin's entire life, like since the beginning.
Okay, so no matter what crazy swings we've seen, $32,000 like the bedrock.
Right. Then there's $51,000. That's the average over the past 2 years. And finally, $63,000, the average over just the last 5 months.
So ED level zooms in a little closer, shows us a different time frame. But why those numbers specifically?
Because they act like support levels. Think about it. If you bought in at, say, $63,000, you're not going to be eager to sell at a loss now, right?
Makes sense. No one wants to be the person who sells low.
Exactly. So that creates a floor. And right now, even with this sideways action, Bitcoin's holding strong above those levels.
So under the surface, it's actually more stable than it looks if you just glance at the price today.
Exactly. And that's what Plan B is getting at. It's not just about the price going up right now.
It's about the foundation, right? The bigger picture of where it's been and where it could go.
Exactly. It's about the fundamentals, historical trends, these underlying metrics. All that gives us a much better sense of how healthy the market really is.
This is why I love these deep dives. So much more than just like buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
We're getting into the psychology of it all. So
Yeah.
where's Plan B land on all this? What's their outlook?
Cautiously optimistic is how I'd put it. They're not denying things are weird. This is uncharted territory to some extent, but
Uncharted can be good though, right? Like
right.
we're discovering something new.
That's the spirit. What if this is just how Bitcoin behaves after a huge pre-halving rally? A new stage of its evolution, right? Plan B even calls it an optical illusion, like maybe we're misinterpreting what we're seeing.
Because we're so used to the old Bitcoin, the one that went bonkers every other Tuesday.
Right. Maybe this calm is actually a sign of maturity, that it's found a new way to move. But obviously, that's not super comforting if you're new to all this and just want to know if your investment is safe.
Speaking of new investors, how does all this analysis help them wrap their heads around what to do?
That's where understanding these deeper dynamics is crucial. Don't get caught up in the FOMO, the hype, the fear of missing out, those daily swings. Mostly noise in the grand scheme.
Easier said than done,
Yeah.
especially when you see those numbers bouncing around.
Oh, absolutely. But the more you understand the fundamentals, like this realized price thing, the more you can filter out the noise and focus on the signal. It's about playing the long game, you know?
So instead of trying to time the market, which is, let's be honest, impossible.
Pretty much, yeah. Focus on what you can control. Learning, understanding, making informed decisions that align with your goals. That's how you succeed in this space long term.
Patience, education, a little bit of courage to ride the waves.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like life advice, actually, not just Bitcoin stuff.
It's all connected. But speaking of things to watch out for, we've talked about the halving, the election. Anything else people should have on their radar? Stuff that could really shake things up beyond what we've already discussed.
Because it feels like we've covered everything. But that's naive, right? There's always more.
Always more. The regulatory landscape is huge. Governments are still figuring out what to do with Bitcoin, so new laws, restrictions, or even just like positive announcements could move the market.
So stay informed. Got it. What else? Don't leave me hanging.
Tech advancements, the Lightning Network, anything that makes Bitcoin more usable for everyday transactions, that could be huge for its value long term.
Right, because right now it's mostly like digital gold, a store of value.
Yeah.
But if it becomes what we actually use to buy stuff.
Exactly. Adoption is key. And then never underestimate good old-fashioned global chaos, economic downturns, who knows what else is going to happen. Those can send investors running to Bitcoin as a safe haven.
It's like the ultimate risk-off asset in a way.
Mm.
So to recap, Bitcoin's chilling, but that doesn't mean it's boring. There's a lot going on beneath the surface.
And that's what Plan B leaves us with, right? This provocative thought. What happens after all this? After the halving hype dies down, after we know who's running the country, does Bitcoin finally have its rocket launch? Or is there something completely different waiting for us that even Plan B hasn't considered?
I mean, how do you even begin to predict that? It's like Bitcoin's playing chess and we're all stuck playing checkers.
Right. It's that feeling of, like, there's this whole other level we're not seeing yet, and maybe that's part of what makes it so exciting for people, that potential for, I don't know, anything to happen.
Yeah, but exciting only goes so far when you're trying to make, smart decisions with your money.
For sure. But I think that's where this whole mindset shift comes in, right? Like, instead of looking for guarantees in a place where there just aren't any, you got to get comfortable with the not knowing part. Embrace the volatility, the uncertainty.
So less like predict the future of Bitcoin and more like become comfortable with the fact that you can't.
Catchy. Right. I should write fortune cookies.
Uh-huh, right. But seriously, that's the thing. Bitcoin's still young, the whole crypto space is, and with that youth comes a lot of unknowns. It's like, instead of fighting against that, lean into it, learn from it.
So you're saying instead of trying to outsmart the market, which, let's be real, is impossible, we should focus on what?
Mm.
The fundamentals. Always. Educate yourself, right?
Right.
Really understand how Bitcoin works, the tech, what drives its price, all of it. And then, just as important, understand your own situation. How much risk can you actually handle? What are you hoping to get out of this? When you know those answers.
You're less likely to make a rash decision based on a tweet you saw. Right.
Exactly. It's about getting to that calm, informed place where those daily swings don't throw you off course. Because they're going to happen. That's Bitcoin.
Speaking of which, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. This whole sideways thing, the halving, the election, even got a little philosophical on there.
It's all connected, right? But the main takeaway I hope people walk away with is this. Bitcoin's a journey, not a get-rich-quick scheme. And like any good journey, there are going to be bumps along the way.
But those bumps, that's where the good stories come from.
Exactly. And who knows what the next chapter holds. That's what makes it so
Oh,
fascinating.
well said. So, to all our listeners out there, keep learning, keep exploring, and buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.